blessed day, the dark, sacred night, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of people going by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. I hear babies cry, I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I'll ever know. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Yes, I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
Good morning. Thank you for being here. And it is a good morning for a couple of reasons. The weather is beautiful, and the Celtics won last night. So what could be better than that? And it's a long holiday weekend. I invite all who are with us today to join in and be part of this worship. Look to this day, for it is life, the very life of life. In its brief course lays down all varieties and realities to our existence, the bliss of growth, the glory of action, the splendor of beauty. For yesterday is but a dream, and tomorrow is only a vision. But today, well lived, makes every yesterday a dream of happiness, and every tomorrow a vision of hope. Look well, therefore, to this day. And may I add on my own that this is an honor and a privilege to be here. And I take this opportunity seriously, but not too seriously, as you may gather from the theme of my homily today. So at this point, I'd like to have everyone join in the singing of the opening hymn in the gray hymnal, number 128, For All That Is Our Life.
Oh
Good morning. Welcome to First Parish in Milton. My name is Penny Partridge, and I am a member of our worship committee. And it's such a delight to be able to help out this morning for the service with Kevin. You need to let us know by raising your hand if you're here, or on chat if you're on Zoom, if you're having any trouble hearing, and we will try to adjust for that. We're so glad that you've chosen to be with us this morning or to join us virtually. However your journey, whatever your heritage, and whomever you love, you are welcome here. Your presence here on Sunday morning enriches worship for everyone. This sanctuary is made holy by your presence. If you're joining us for the first time, a special welcome. You will find information about First Parish in your pew. One of the greeters, or I'm both the greeters and I this morning, would be happy to answer any questions you might have after the service. The work of living our faith is done both in and out of worship. So I call your attention this morning, not to any special announcement, but to the printed announcements in your program. Now let's take a few minutes to greet each other and extend a warm welcome to new friends and old. And we don't even have to stay in our pews anymore. But people coming in on Zoom should open yourself to the gallery there.
Hello.
Hey, dear.
How are you?
I'm grateful for hybrid services today.
Yes. I haven't seen you in a long time.
I know. Well, I've been in church mostly, but anyway, how are you doing?
I'm good, up and down. I was like, I just realized there was like a kind of risque piece of art behind me that may not be for everyone.
I didn't notice.
I have been having this procedure, which they sort of found out worked really well for me every 3 months since mid last year. And it's late last year, and it's been helping me. So it works.
Good.
It works for a while. And then all of a sudden I'm like, and I need one. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you found honestly, any kind of relief is relief.
Yeah. And just doing my life. I'm turning 50, and I'm doing a black tie party in Manhattan.
Nice. Okay, I'm going to sign off. Thank you, dear.
Continues to shine. A corner of warmth and awareness where we, the members of this faith community, can find comfort, support, and connection to one another. Each Sunday we light the chalice as a reminder that hope, love, and faith still abide. Now, please join me in saying the call to worship. Come, let us gather. We gather to celebrate the sacred within and among us. We come to seek spiritual growth and understanding. We strive to practice acceptance, forgiveness, and love. Together, we work to build a world with justice and compassion. Come, let us gather together. And now Kevin will tell the story for all ages.
Story for all ages comes from this children's book. The Jester Has Lost His Jingle, by David Saltzman. And I've edited it down so it's a kind of a long book. The Jester has lost his jingle. The story begins a long time ago in a faraway place on a most unfortunate day. You see, one morning when the world awoke, no one was in the mood for a joke. But one was still happy and filled with glee. That was the Jester, so funny and sweet. He had a special helper, a stick he called Farley, a talking piece of wood. But now one day when he got on stage in front of the king, nobody laughed and nobody chuckled. The Jester has lost his jingle. The king was in a rage and banished the Jester. "I am no longer funny," he cried to Farley, "and laughter must be dead." The world has lost its sense of humor. We must find it and bring it back. So the two set out on a long journey. They looked far and wide, but somehow the people aren't laughing. One man told them, "The world is full of pain and fear, and jokes just won't make it right." Finally, the Jester and Farley came upon a little girl who was in the hospital very sick. The Jester said, "Won't you try and laugh as I dance and sing?" Then a little tee-hee, she began to giggle, then snicker, and then guffaw. Soon her laughter flew out the window and spread throughout the village. People began to smile and laugh once again. The Jester went back to the king and began to laugh and say, "Laughter is no longer missing. We have found it." So when you're feeling sad or bad or blue, remember that laughter is hiding just inside of you. At this point, I would like to ask everyone for a time of stillness and a time of silence. I want you to close your eyes and remember a special time in your life that brought a smile to your face, a time of pure joy and happiness, a time when problems in your life were suspended and only bliss and comfort existed. Thank you for that moment.
The reading this morning, is from Alan Watts. Don't take life too seriously. The only thing that could be bad is to take life too seriously. In other words, the universe, all its forms, all the forms of biology, all the different species, the giraffes, the rhinoceroses, the baboons, the roses, the eucalyptus trees, etc. Everything is a form of biological game, is a dancing thing going on in different styles. And you won't want to say to any of these things, "You shouldn't happen," because they are all the great Maya, the great illusion, the great play. And so the human community, organized with division of labor, with classes, with all the complications of the economics, banking, transportation, and so on, all this is a particular kind of play. All are perfectly legitimate forms of dancing. So the universe does this, but the important thing to understand is that the man who goes outside the pale is saying, please, people who are in the pale, my existence reminds you that you are only playing. Don't take it too seriously, because if you take it too seriously, you're going to start destroying each other and fighting because you're too involved. So every sane society allows a certain amount of people to deviate, some sort of outsiders. It says, you don't have to join, you don't have to play the game. A society that is insane and unsure of itself cannot allow this to happen. The acorn is not inferior to the oak tree. It's a potential oak, but as an acorn, it's just as lovely and lovely a thing, it's just as beautiful and lovely a thing as a full-grown oak. A baby is as lovely as an adult, sometimes a great deal more lovely. So every person who is in the beginning stages of evolution is just as marvelous as a person in a higher state, just as much a manifestation of the divine dance.
Accentuate the positive, eliminate the negative, patch on to the affirmative, don't mess with Mr. In Between. You've got to spread joy up to the maximum, bring gloom down to the minimum, have faith or pandemonium, liable to walk upon the scene. To illustrate my last remark, Jonah in the whale, Noah in the ark. What did they do just when everything looked so dark? Man, they said we better accentuate the positive, eliminate the negative, latch on to the affirmative, don't mess with Mr. In Between. To illustrate my last remark, Jonah in the whale, Noah in the ark. What did they do just when everything looked so dark? Man, they said we better accentuate the positive, eliminate the negative, latch on to the affirmative, don't mess with Mr. In Between. No, don't mess with Mr. In Between.
I've been the church sexton here for almost 13 years, so I'm guessing that the members might think that today's homily was going to be about cleanliness is next to godliness, but it's not. My message this morning is the benefits of having a sense of humor and not taking life too seriously. I can best illustrate this by telling you a story that happened to me a few months ago, maybe a year. I was visiting with my family, and I got into discussion with my 18-year-old granddaughter, about current events and some political issues. She's extremely bright, attractive, smart young woman who is involved in her school and her city with social justice, particularly with inclusion. She can debate with the best of them, and that would be me. As a matter of fact, she was selected as a recipient in her city's Inclusion Award after writing 2 books championing, I knew I was going to stumble on that word, but you know what I mean about inclusion. She stood up at town hall meetings and spoke with passion in matters of justice, fairness, and inclusion. Our discussion started to get into some areas of women's issues like abortion, equal pay, opportunities. And even though I agreed with her on most of the points, I could see she was getting more animated and agitated as we went on. At one point, it really didn't matter what, she said it really doesn't matter what she thought because all the power and laws are made by old white guys. I took offense to that because guess what? I'm an old white guy. And I certainly don't oppress anyone or believe in or create laws that would suppress women's rights. I consider myself progressive, compassionate, and I don't want to be lumped into a group with anyone who would stand against basic human rights. The discussion went on, and at one point she mentioned that the only person in the media that she really trusted was Anderson Cooper of CNN. So I quickly pointed out to her with some sense of humor that it was interesting she trusted Anderson Cooper since, after all, he's an old white guy. It broke the mood of the moment and gave us a more relaxed platform to continue our discussion. But I still couldn't help being offended by the old white guy thing. And then that's when I realized that was my problem, not hers. She was just expressing her feelings. And I could have taken it too seriously and gotten into a more serious and louder debate with her, but I decided by using a bit of humor and irony, I could mellow the town of the moment. That's what I mean when I say, don't take life too seriously. My wife was someone who never took life too seriously. I remember that she had a way of softening the moment with a song. She would say, I always have a song on my lips. No matter what she was talking about, she would break into a few lines of a familiar tune and add humor to the conversation, no matter what it was. For instance, I was in a very grumpy voice, have to go and shovel some snow, a foot of snow one time. And I said, now I have to go get my heavy winter jacket and go out and get my shovel and go shovel that snow. And she broke into a chorus of button up your overcoat. And I'd like to sing that to you, but I'm going to just kind of stumble through the lyrics. Bundle up your overcoat when the wind grows free. Take good care of yourself, you belong to me. She did this all the time with any circumstance. It was like living in an operetta with her. She had a song on her lips for everything. She had a sense of humor and didn't take life too seriously. And even though I still have a foot of snow to remove, I went out with a smile on my face and a better attitude. That, my friends, is the power of humor. And I don't mean to say that there aren't very serious issues that we face all the time. There are plenty. There are wars, social injustice, health, poverty. The list is endless. And each of these deserve the appropriate amount of serious discussion. What I am suggesting is that we are all better served to solve these issues by debate and resolution coming from a place of humor. Humor disarms and creates an atmosphere that gives us more reasons to come to better solutions. It's not just my feeling. The data proves it. The results prove it out. More smiling, less grumpiness. We should keep in mind that we all need to have emotions that keep us as well-rounded people. I can show you this by thinking of our emotions as a pie chart. And in that pie chart, we have a big slice of love, a big slice of compassion, pride, sympathy, hope, excitement, and a big slice of sense of humor. What we also have is some less desirable emotions, which are fear, anger, guilt, and yeah, even sometimes hate. If we lose our sense of humor, which I see happening more and more these days, that void of our emotional pie is more likely to be filled with negative emotions. It's like water seeking its own level. What we lose in humor, we fill with anger and hate. And I do believe we need all these emotions to be a complete and well-rounded people. Emotions are what complete us. And I don't want to be living in a world without a sense of humor. Missing out on humor would be a disaster. Our language and the way we express ourselves is also changing. Words and phrases we used 25, 50 years ago are no longer appropriate, and for good reason. Don't take life too seriously. As an example, I was recently looking at a new list of words that were considered to be offensive. Words and phrases that we use in common conversation are now offensive, according to at least some. I want to be sensitive to people's feelings, but some of these words on the list seem just a little silly. There were nearly 1,300 new words added to this list recently. No, I'm not even sure I know 1,300 words, so I guess anything I say could be considered offensive. In that list included the words brainstorming, mom and dad, peanut gallery. And that's a particularly difficult one for me because growing up I was always watching the Howdy Doody show. Some people might remember that. But my dream was always to be on the Howdy Doody show because he always invited some kids into the studio and they sat there in what they called the peanut gallery. Other words are master bedroom, for instance. Interesting to me that the Lake Superior State University recently published a list of words and phrases they considered offensive and asked students and staff not to use them. And they included amazing, the word amazing, gaslighting, irregardless, and goat. Well, I guess around here would have a problem losing that word for any Tom Brady fans. Also, long time no see, brave, prisoner, and even the word American was being considered offensive by the Lake Superior State University. There might be some people who find these words offensive, but in the words of Thomas Paine, if you're afraid to offend, you can't be honest. Lake Superior State University needs to get a sense of humor. And I can illustrate that by saying, you know, if you were making a speech in front of 1,000 people, there are always some words that are going to be considered offensive. It's inevitable. There's no speech, debate, conversation that is not going to offend someone. You have to assume it's going to happen. Now my point, you're the only person you can control. Don't be outraged. Don't take yourself too seriously. Accept the changes in our language and how they affect others with humor and a smile. Now there's also the issue of pronouns and addressing people, and I just want to explain that if anyone came to me and asked to be addressed in a particular way, I'd be happy to do so. The onus is on me. I don't want to take life too seriously. Trust me, I don't want to offend anyone, but it's impossible not to offend sometimes. For instance, it's interesting to find out that most comedians will no longer perform at colleges and universities these days. And the reason they won't is because they fear the fear of being culture canceled, because they might offend some people in their routines. But that's what comedians do, they offend. But because of culture canceling, they find themselves being not just heckled, but not able to continue their performance because of protest groups. Some have even become physically assaulted. Humor exposes the positive and negative side of life. Comedians offer a window that allow us to see the absurdities of life and expose them to the light of day. That's what colleges and universities are supposed to do, a place where you can debate and discuss. Listen to all those you agree with and all those you don't. Again, Thomas Paine, if you're afraid to offend, you can't be honest. So I suggest that you stay cheerful. Being cheerful is connected to our well-being and psychological health. You can increase your resilience to risk of heart attacks and even manage pain. Add more humor to your life. Surrender yourself to funny people. Turn off the news now and then and watch a funny show or a funny movie. I never thought I'd say this, but in the morning I get up and watch the news, and sometimes it's so depressing, I turn over to TV Land and watch Gilligan's Island. Gilligan's Island, who would have thought that that was therapeutic? But there's a reason why it's been on for 50 years and still playing in reruns. People want to laugh. People crave the good feeling they get from laughing at silly movies and even Gilligan's Island. People need silly. Let me try to define why we take life too seriously. Our inner self is trained to measure up in a very competitive world. We look for external references to define our performance. We live in a measured world. How much money do we make? How happy are we? How well are we dressed? How big is our car? Our identity is defined by how we measure up to other people, and that creates stress. An old Chinese proverb says, "Don't push the river. It flows all by itself." Be your own person without self-doubt. Another great philosopher, Groucho Marx, said, "I refuse to join a club that would have me as a member." He apparently didn't take life too seriously. And the magic word today is smile. If you begin to believe what you're doing is serious, take a vacation. As I see it, there are two types of people, those who laugh at themselves and those who take life too seriously. And you may be taking life too seriously if you constantly worry about the small things that in the long run or even short run don't really matter in your life. You can't seem to joke around with friends and family. Maybe you find yourself not getting in on the fun with them and saying to yourself, "What's so funny about that?" You don't take time to unwind. Life will be stressful all the time. You need that downtime. Always feeling like you're in a competition, an urgent need to always win the game. People begin to avoid you. You want to be with someone who can't seem to, nobody wants to be with someone who can't seem to turn it off and relax. If you're finding life too seriously, try this. Focus on the good. Perhaps running late for a meeting, for example, would mean that you get to spend more time with your family or avoid the heavy traffic. Maybe you can enjoy that second cup of coffee. or maybe listen to some good music or spend that precious time with your family by hugging them just because you have the time. Ask yourself, will any of this matter in 5 years? And I have a personal story for that. I was in the advertising communications business, and I was working for a company that manufactured golf equipment. And they happened to have a membership to Augusta National Golf Course in Georgia. And for anybody who plays golf, I don't have to explain beyond that what that means. That's the finest golf course in the world. And at one point, they asked the team from the agency if they would like to come down and join them for a day of golf at Augusta National Golf Course. Well, of course, I had projects on my desk, and I thought about it, and I finally decided I just can't do it. So I told them, you know what, ask me the next time. I'm sorry, I just can't make it. Well, there wasn't a next time. The company left the agency after that, and I never got to play at Augusta National Golf Course. And I don't even remember the projects that I was working on. They didn't matter anymore. Another way is to create ways through humor to relieve stress. Tell a joke. Think of something fun you would like to do. Plan your next vacation. Daydream. Close your eyes and take in some deep breaths. Remember the song, Don't Worry, Be Happy? Well, it may be a little simplistic, but the message is good. Philosopher Albert Hubbard, that's not L. Ron Hubbard, it's Albert Hubbard, said, don't take life too seriously because you'll never come out alive. He's right. There are no do-overs in life. Here are some good reasons to have a sense of humor. Humor is a coping mechanism. It will relieve stress, makes it easier to face up to the task in front of you. Humor makes you approachable. Humor is the great disarmor. Humor improves your mental health and will improve brain activity. All this is well documented in science. Scientific data offers proof that your brain will function in a healthier pattern if you can maintain a sense of humor. Humor will improve your persuasive powers. Again, data suggests that you will hold people's attention longer and be more persuasive if you use humor. People instinctively want to laugh. The more they laugh and smile, the more they listen. It can also improve your blood pressure. Again, science proves that out. It also is suggested that it can help fight off illnesses and diseases. Life isn't a mystery to be solved. The beauty is in its unpredictability. Try starting out every day with a positive thought. Don't let little problems turn into big ones. Reverend Lisa told me, try to stay away from telling jokes. But she's not here, so I'm going to do it anyway. But we'll call it an experiment rather than a joke. How's that? So, a polar bear goes into an ice cream shop and says, I would like a vanilla cone with sprinkles. So the server says, why the long pause? And the bear replies, I don't know, I've always had long pause. That's the experiment. You laughed, okay? Now don't you feel better? Laughing is a good thing. I leave you with this final thought, and it comes from the last few lines of the Desiderata. With all its sham, drudgery, and broken dreams, it's still a beautiful world. Be cheerful and happy. And I'll add to that, and always smile. Thank you. Okay. Thanks, Penny.
And now please join us by singing hymn 1053 in the Teal hymnal. Please be seated. We're so thankful for this community. We pray that we can be to each other what we need to be, both for this community and for the wider community. I want to share the celebrating by Stephen Guy of the birth of Eleanor Mickle, Laurie McIntosh's granddaughter. Laurie has a new granddaughter, and her name is Eleanor, but also Joy. The celebrating is in Joy. The baby is Eleanor. And where are we now? The prayer response. Today's offering is dedicated to the services and ministry of First Parish Milton. To give, please follow the instructions printed in your order of worship or shown on the Zoom screen. For those in the meeting house, you may also deposit cash or check into the collection plate located at the main entrance at the end of the service or at this exit over here. If you are proud of this church, become its advocate. If you care about its future, share its message. We welcome all to build a just and healthy world with faith, love, and compassion. That's our message. Please support our faith community by giving as generously as you can.
Before I play my piece, I'm going to talk a little bit. People who know me know I love to play the recorder, but I also love to talk. So I'll try not to talk longer than I play. But anyway, I wanted just to explain about the baby, Eleanor, because we heard our names come up, that Laurie McIntosh's son, and his wife have been living at our house while they transitioned from Colorado to Vermont. They're buying a house in Vermont. And so they've been at our house for a month or 6 weeks or so with their dogs, and they're absolutely wonderful people. And we were thrilled that Carlin had her baby this week on Thursday, so they haven't come back to the house yet, but anyway, the baby's here, and we're very excited about that. And by an astounding coincidence, at the same time they were having the baby, they were closing on a house in Vermont that happened to be on Eleanor Way, so it's the same place for this baby, so it all just seems to be falling together beautifully, which is very nice. Anyway, as a member of the music committee, I was asked to provide a piece of music for a service, and I picked this service so that I had plenty of time to prepare it. And then I was delighted to find out that this theme of the service was not taking yourself too seriously, because I immediately thought of what I would do, which is to play this piece, which is, you can tell by the title, it's a divertimento. And a divertimento, by definition, doesn't take itself very seriously. It's just something diverting. And this comes from a period of time, 1810 to 1830, when Beethoven was writing his Ninth Symphony, the most serious piece of music ever written. But there was this other guy named Kramer in Vienna as well, writing these pieces, these divertimenti, and they were written for an instrument now completely forgotten called the shakan. Remember that Vienna is across the river from Hungary, so this is a Hungarian instrument that was kind of like a recorder, only a little longer. And the funniest part about the shakan was that it doubled as a walking stick. So a gentleman in Vienna would walk around with this instrument in his hand like this. So you have to picture me, not with my flamingo shirt and my cargo shorts, but picture me with a top hat and a monocle playing my walking stick. And we don't really know, somehow this came and went, this phenomenon of playing these silly pieces with a walking stick. Somehow after about 1830, this stopped happening. We don't really know why, but maybe you can guess. It wasn't a big hit somehow. But I always try to picture, like, when would they have played these pieces? And so I think about whether they played a piece while they were waiting in line at the bank, or they're waiting for the horse-drawn carriage to arrive, or they were at a picnic or something afterwards. You know, I thought you'd never ask, you'd say, as you pick up your walking stick and play a piece. So this piece, this divertimento, is quite short, but it's full of action. It has a contemplative part at the beginning, then it goes into a minor key and gets very exciting, but it doesn't last very long. That part, the serious part, is very fleeting, and then it goes back into a major key at the end and ends happily. So I hope you enjoy this. The nice thing about playing a piece by yourself is, unlike playing with somebody else, if you flub something, you don't have to keep going. So if I do something twice, it's because I didn't like the way I did it the first time. I'll just do it again. Hopefully most of you won't notice. All right. So.
please join me in our unison dedication. May these gifts be transformed into strength for this faith community, into comfort, food, and shelter for those in need, and may we be transformed by generosity. Please join us in singing the closing hymn, number 16, "'Tis a Gift to Be Simple," which is so simple that we will sing it through twice.
So we'll end the service in benediction. I offer you this one thought in hope and guidance, a good word, smile. It's a gift to the power of your spirit. Join me in the joy of this moment. Trust yourself and the people who surround you with gifts of humor, love, and a smile. Thank you.
Though your heart is breaking, smile, even though it's breaking. When there are clouds in the sky, you'll get by. If you smile through your fear and sorrow, smile, and maybe tomorrow you'll see the sun come shining through. Light up your face with gladness, hide every trace of sadness. Although a tear may be ever so near, that's the time you must keep on trying. Smile, what's the use of crying? You'll find that life is still worthwhile if you'll just smile. Light up your face with gladness, hide every trace of sadness. Although a tear may be ever so near, that's the time you must keep on trying. Smile, what what's the use of crying? You'll find that life is still worthwhile if you'll just smile.
Hello. I've never been alone in here. No one's available to talk to me. That makes me sad.